Welcome back to These Things Are Written. On this Tuesday, we are going to be starting Galatians chapter 5 today, looking at the first 15 verses. Here, the Apostle Paul continues the theological arguments that he's been making, but makes an application to them, shows why it is important, applying it to the issue at hand, which is circumcision as being required to be a Christian. Let's start with verse 1. For freedom, Christ has set us free. Stand firm, therefore, and do not submit again to the yoke of slavery. This is a call to freedom. It's really the summary of the last couple of chapters, and it is setting up the final call that he gives in this passage that follows of not submitting again to be slaves to the law. Let's pick up now, verse 2. Look, I, Paul, say to you that if you accept circumcision, Christ will be no advantage to you. I testify again to every man who accepts circumcision that he is obligated to keep the whole law. You are severed from Christ, you who would be justified by the law. You have fallen away from the grace. For through the Spirit, by faith, we ourselves eagerly wait for the hope of righteousness. For in Jesus Christ, neither circumcision nor uncircumcision counts for anything, but only faith working through love. These verses focus in a way, on the consequences, you could say, of circumcision. If you accept circumcision, as he says, the need to be circumcised in order to become a Christian, then Christ has no advantage. If you are focusing on the law in one area, the whole area is important. And if you focus on that, you are being severed from Christ. In a way, using some circumcision language there, talking about not only being circumcised, but being severed away from Jesus Christ. And then he talks about how it's not by law, it is by faith. For through the Spirit, verse 5, by faith we ourselves eagerly wait for the hope of righteousness. It is by faith, not by works of the law. Verse 6 is one of my favorites in Galatians, along with 2:20. For in Jesus Christ, neither circumcision nor uncircumcision counts, but only faith working through love. Those other things don't matter. Whether you're circumcised, uncircumcised, it doesn't matter. Whether you like contemporary music or traditional hymns, it doesn't matter. Whether whatever view you have on this or that or others, it doesn't matter. What matters is faith. Faith that works or expresses itself through love. That's what matters. Verse 7. You were running well. Who hindered you from obeying the truth? This persuasion is not from him who calls you. A little leaven leavens the whole lump. I have confidence in the Lord that you who will take no other view, and the one who is troubling you will bear the penalty, whoever he is. But if I, brother, still preach circumcision, why am I still being persecuted? In that case, the offense of the cross has been removed. I wish those who unsettle you would emasculate themselves. Looking at this, someone was most likely telling them that Paul approved of what they were saying with response to circumcision, that it is necessary to become a Christian, as I've mentioned a few times now. But Paul says, if that was the case, why am I still being persecuted? Because the offense of the cross has not been removed. When we move to other things other than Christ, it takes away from the cross. And then he uses that graphic language that I wish that they would emasculate themselves. Again, using that circumcision language, but moving more into an extreme statement, showing his frustration with those who are trying to sway the Galatians. Verse 13. For you were called to freedom, brothers, only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another. For the whole law is fulfilled in one word, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. But you bite and devour one another. Watch out that you are not consumed by one another. This transitions to the next section where we're going to read of the fruit of the flesh, you could say, and the fruit of the Spirit, the contrast between the two. And as he wraps up this section, again, being called to freedom, a reminder, don't use this freedom to do whatever you want. Don't use this freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, as an opportunity for the sin, but following the will of the Lord. Through love, serve one another. That's the call. We have been called through Christ. In Christ alone, we have our salvation, we have our forgiveness. And as we respond to that love and the forgiveness we have, our faith that God has given to us is active, is working through the love of Jesus, through our lives. An important part to understand the whole of the gospel message of how God, through Christ alone, saves us and now calls us to be in his will. Tomorrow, as I mentioned, we'll look at the works of the flesh and contrast that with the works, the fruit of the Spirit. We'll see you then. God bless.